Hi Internet viewers, Frank Rauscher one more time. We're doing the Indigo bunting, which is another bunting out there. But this is the Lazuli Bunting, and it's a pretty bird, and that's why I picked it. So I'm going to show you, we're going to continue on. And on the last video, we cut the wings in, and I was going to start marching into the wing. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how to mark out the bird here, okay? And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how to burn it. So we're going to sort of detail the bird, okay? The one thing I want to definitely tell you before we even get started, I'd really like you to sand all of the bird here. You should be doing sanding all of this to get it nice and smooth, okay? With a sander, you could do hand sanding. I also have, if anybody's looking for it, these are mandrel, and you slide these on, and I do sell these, and you run them at half speed, and you can go in, and the nice part about it, there's some are bullet shaped, some are pointed, and you could get in and really get into the tight areas. You don't put much pressure on it when you use it, because it doesn't take much to do the sanding, and you could do power sanding or you could do the hand sanding. And I would like you to get this all smooth as can be, okay? Even up into what would be the mantle and the wing area, but definitely the head and the throat area. So I want to get you started on that, and I'll show you how I want to get that detailed, okay? The other thing I want to state as well is that I do have catalogs available if anybody's interested and wanting to do this project or any of the projects I have. I have several birds out there, and if you look up my channel, you'll see they're all out there. And I do a step-by-step just like this one. So they are available, and I have them in kit form. I have patterns you can get. You can cut your own out. I have the feet, the eyes separate if you want to go. I even have the power equipment, the optivisors that I use for magnification, which I need. And so if there's anything you may need, or if I don't have it, I can at least try to guide you in that direction to where you can get it. So give me a buzz, and my email address, if you send me my email, send an email to me, I will get a catalog out to you. And it's Rauscher, R-A-U-S-C-H-E-R, Frank, F-R-A-N-K, 7 @gmail.com, and I will mail one out to you, okay? And I'll do it through the email address, okay? And so I'm going to move on this and get you going so that we can at least get the head pretty much done. I won't say totally. Nothing's ever total. So we will continue on. So bear with me. I'll move the camera down, and then you can watch me do the detailing, okay? Okay, we're back. What I want to show you now is, I just saw something here. I saw an edge that I may have left, so I'm just going to smooth this out right here. And like I said, I'd like you to sand everything to have everything nice and smooth. And I'm just making sure that my throat area has been rounded enough. Still have a little bit of what I call that. I'm going to switch my bit here a second and try to get maybe my let's see, I'll get my ruby fat flame, I call it, and just come in here and use the back end of the bit just to smooth that out. Just a little rough. So here's what we want to do in that area. I'm going to get my pencil. Now remember the C we had right here on, I call it a backward C. And right at that C where your beak is pulling in, I'm going to come out here. Now here's your, just to give you an idea, here's your cheek coming up. I want you to come from here, flare out a little bit, then pull back. Okay, just about like that. And then I want you to do the same thing here. You're coming off of that bottom of that C. Here's your, you can stay on the cheek line here, right there. I'm going to ask you to come down and then flare out a little bit. Okay, try to make this the same on both. Now you have that center line that came through the beak down through here. So I'm going to ask you to measure from the beak down. I'm going to have you go, I'm going to put my roller right up in there. Yep, sure I am. Okay, here we go. Here's where dividers would come in handy, like somebody had suggested in a previous video. So I go from the bottom of the beak down 3/4 of an inch, and I put a dot. Okay, and then what I'm going to do is just flare out like this, and flare out like this, and come around. Okay, this is just a boundary. You don't have to put that in heavy. This is the important one. We're going to actually relieve this line. So here we go. I'm going to get, you can either use your bullet, a diamond, or this is a ruby flame. Whatever you have that's handy, that's pointed. I'm going to come right into that C, and I'm just indenting, just slightly. See if I can get steady here. I want to follow that line, just like that. I don't want to go real deep. If you can see that, it's just a little bit of an indent. Not even a 16th. Boy, you can tell my hand isn't steady today. I am walking all over the place, but that's okay. Look at it. I don't know why it's rocking and rolling. I'm going to do it this way. I'll get the point off to the side. Okay, let me show you what I've accomplished here. I did a better job on this side. Here is the line of action we're talking about. It comes out and then flares out a little bit, okay? And then this comes out right here and then flares out. So you can see it gets wider from here to here. And same way here. This could have came over a little bit, but no big deal, okay? Now, what I want to do is I'm going to go to the top of the head, and I'm going to get this center line back in here. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to come in and I'm going to start small back here with a line off of the center line. And then as I come back, I'm going to get probably about 1/8 of an inch apart, and sort of spreads out a little bit. That's on one side of the line. Then I'm going to do another one, maybe about a 1/16 off of that one, and then it gets wider as it comes back, and I have about 1/8 of an inch coming back down like that. Okay, these are just guidelines, so don't make them so heavy. Then I'm going to come about a 1/16 more. I'm going to come up, and I get wider as I come back and try to maintain about 1/8 of an inch. Okay, to there. Now, I'm going to come right through the eye here with a line. Here's your cheek line, is what I call it. I'm going to follow that one back like this. So it starts out small, and it gets to be about 1/8 of an inch. Now, here's the cheek area. So I'm going to start out about a 1/16 here, and I'm going to come, instead of rolling this way, I'm going to see this curvature this way. I'm going to curve this around this way. Then I'm going to come down about a 1/16, come out about 1/8 and pull around. And then I've got this last one right there. Now, these are just guidelines that I'm setting up. I'm going to do the same thing on this side. I'm going to go a 1/16 apart, roughly. Could be a little bit more than that. 1/8 of an inch wide, coming back. Then I do it again, 1/16 to 1/8, and back. Then I go a 1/16 to 1/8, and come back. So you get these running lines. Now, here's that center line of the eye, and the cheek comes around here. I'm flaring right off of that. Okay, now from where the eye center line comes all the way up to the beak, I come down a 1/16, and I'm going to spiral around this way. Then the next one, I split these two. So I have this, this. Okay, now I have, I'll do the throat afterwards. We're just going to work on the top. Now watch me on this. I am going to start out with a real small C turning around, and that is about that long, and then I'm going to piggyback off of that one and get a little longer, then go back a little bit more and piggyback it and increase it. As it gets bigger, it gets a little longer, okay, but not real crazy. Hope you could see that. This gets a little longer. This gets a little longer. This gets a little longer. Okay, but they're within reason of length. Now I'm going to come in and do another one. I don't want it exactly all the same, so you can stagger these a little bit. You do a smaller one to be shorter on this one, and then you do a longer one. A longer one. If they happen to meet up, that's fine too, but I'm not trying. I'm just trying to do individual ones as I go. And it just so happens that they meet up. That is what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to increase the length and the width as I go back. Now I'm going to come in here on this one. Turn in here, turn in there, here. Yep. Didn't quite make a nice C there, so I'll come in. I'm still doing it. There's that one. And this gets bigger. This pulls in, there, and there. Okay? Now I'm going to do the one just above the eye. I get a little one right in here, 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 behind the eye. A little longer and a little wider. And then the last one right there. Okay. And then I'm going to do this on this side too. So I'm going to come in here, 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 here. And I'm not trying to match up with the one across the way of it. So if they get staggered, that's great. If they match up, that's okay too, but I'm not trying to do that. I'm just trying to draw as my feathers get wider and longer. Okay, just like that. Hope you could see that well. Now I'm going to come in here and do it again. And I get longer as they get wider. And I stop right about there, just as you're coming down off the back. Then we do the one in between the top of the eye here. We got one here, one here. This one's sort of going partly into the eye. This one comes behind the eye. This comes down, and that comes down. Now, I'll do the cheek too. Cheek comes in here, here. It's partly into the eye, behind the eye, and this gets a little smaller as they come back, okay? Here, 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 and you get one little one back in there. And I got one here, 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 and there, okay? Now, I'm going to get my pen. Now this is a P12S, but if you have a P12, or if you have a spear-shaped one, that's even better. Instead of burning like this, because this has a rounded heel here, I'm going to flip it over, and I get like a point. And I'm trying to do a spear-shaped type. So I'm going to burn deep. And I think I've showed you this before. Let me get a piece of wood here and show you. What we've done, this is an exploded view where I have a feather here, and this is the leading edge up front. So what I do is I plunge down the middle, and then I flare to the left all along this leading edge up here. And come out this way, and then I come out this way. So you're like fanning, but you're always burning that leading edge. So what I'm trying to do is, this is a miniature now, so you really got to get in there and stay. Now I'm going to burn right up almost to the beak on this one. I don't know how well you see this, but I'm going to get it close up as I can to the camera. I'm not doing the whole feather. There's the first one. You'll see it better as I come back because they're not as small. I'm flaring out to the left, and I'm flaring out to the right. I'll do it on the next one. You can really start seeing it because they're bigger. But I try to drag it even beyond. You're really recessing that leading edge up front. But when you pull back, the heat dissipates, and you're still marking it, even though you don't see it as dark. So here's one here. Down the middle, I flare to the left, and I flare to the right, and follow that leading edge. And it does texture beyond the dark burn. Here we go again. I come through here. And I come all the way around to here. Okay, and I'm going to do this again. And where they get a little longer, you could drag that center one down a little bit more. And then I'm really trying to recess that leading edge. Okay, and then I'll do one more here. If you miss a spot, you can go back and do it again. You know, like if you think you didn't get enough texture, you can do some fast stroking through there, and that'll take care of it. There's one row. Now I'm going to do the one next to the center of the head. Do this one. I go right up to the beak, but not on the beak. Just trying to recess that edge. That was my leading edge, was the beak itself. Then I come back on each one. Hope I'm in camera range, because this ain't helping you if you don't see it. So I get that leading edge, and I flare to the left, and I flare to the right. So down the middle, out to the left, and out to the right. Okay, it takes a little practice. That's why I showed you on that piece of flat wood, you may want to pencil some of those C's, elongated C's, and then practice on it, this here, okay? This could be like a practice board. You just pencil these on and then practice here before you go here. Here was some real elongated ones I did too. So I do different styles on different parts of the bird. So, and I'm making this look easy, okay? I'll be the first to admit that, but it took me a while to get the hang of it. And maybe you'll get it the first time out, maybe you won't, but it really gives you a real neat look. And it looks like you're raising the feathers when you're not. You're actually depressing that leading edge, and it sort of outlines that feather. It has some definition. So here we go again. I'm going to come right in here. These are real tiny. That's why I'm using this tip on the opposite side. If you have a spear-shaped pen, that's even better. If anybody ever needs these pens, I have them available if you need them. And these are what I call, well, they are called the Optima 1 pens. And you have to practice. This doesn't always come really easy. I do like a flicking. I like plunge and then lift, if I could call it that. At least that's the way I feel as though I'm doing it. And it gives you a real neat effect, okay? And you'll see what I'm talking about later, because when we put washes on this bird later, this will stand out. And that's what we're trying to do. And it gives you a real neat look. I had some people in my classes that after they get done burning the bird sometime, they want to stop right there because the bird looks so interesting looking after you burn it. With the style I'm trying to show you here, okay? And this is, it is neat. And I've actually had some people didn't paint their bird, they just liked it the way it was burnt. So, you know, you may have seen me on other videos where that has happened, and I had mentioned that too, because I think in my years of teaching, several students, maybe 2 or 3, I should say, have actually not painted the bird because they liked the way it looked unpainted. The burn really gives you a unique look, and sometimes you get captured by that. Now there's half the head, and it's starting to get interesting looking, okay? So we'll work the rest of it here. I'm going to go in here. Just want to show you. I think what I'll do is I'll do the one side over here, and I'll do some of the throat, and you'll get the same idea. I'm not going to just keep on doing the same thing, but I want to show you into the cheek area here, and then I'll show you the throat, and we'll keep you going. But the idea is you plunge on the leading edge, and then flare out to the right and to the left. That's the whole thing. And because it's so tight, you know, it's challenging a little bit, and you got to have a steadiness to you. And but it does give you a real nice look. I'll be the first to admit that. And even when we paint, I think it'll give you a nice look. Okay, we're getting there. We'll be into the cheek area before we know it. Let me just trying to hopefully, you know, one of the biggest things I find, and you could see how I did that line work in the cheek area, I should say, in that C area off the beak. Sometimes you have steady days and sometimes you don't. So, you know, I think the more you practice, the better you get. But as I get older, I can't always say I'm as steady. I've had some older gentlemen in my class, older than me, I should say, and they, you know, your steadiness isn't always there. So, it's harder, and I'd be the first to admit that. And so far, if you notice, I'm resting. I'm trying to get my hand on this piece. I'm not doing this haphazard. I'm gauging how the depth of burn and everything as I do this. So I'm really steadying myself. And I do that even when I'm not holding the piece. Sometime you'll see I'll have a rest that I'll put the bird on, like a little cradle or something like that, which helps to steady me. And then there's sometimes when you're burning, like I'm holding this up to the camera here, and I'm fine with this, but there are times when you have to get in a comfortable position to burn to get the effect you want, and you need a steadiness. Okay. Now, I like a lot of this because in competition, when you can make this look soft and still there without lifting all the feathers, this will do it for you. This really will. And in competition, I think it shows. So just trying to give you ideas here for your piece. If you can master this, I think it enhances the look of your bird. And that's what I'm trying to teach in a way. You know, there's all different methods of making birds and how different people approach it. And I showing you my way, but you know, you adopt different ways of doing it. You know, some people would relieve all these. I think that's a little bit over the top because most feathers on the bird are pretty soft and flat, and this is one way to keep them flat, and I feel as though they're soft. So you could start to see comes out to a nice looking pattern on there, even with the burn. Now I'm going into the cheek area, doing the exact same thing. Coming right up to the beak, flaring it out. Where you're getting around the eye area, you're only doing just a little bit. I hope you can see that. And then you can go right into the eye and flare out as if that's like your leading edge. And of course, these feathers aren't as elongated as the ones on the top of the head. And these get even shorter at the end here. You can see they got smaller C's. Now, this is a tiny one in here, so I'll just go in, make a couple strokes, pull them back. There's another one. Hope you can see this. These are really tiny. Try not to make them too tiny. If you can, and you can work within them, great. If not, open it up a little bit, you know what I mean? You can cheat. You can make these C's a little bit bigger. You really need a pointy burner tip so that you could get in there. Gets a little tricky. Then here we go. We get the cheek all done here in a second. Now I'm going to leave the other side to you, and I'm going to do half of this side, and then you guys can complete the rest just the way I'm doing this on both sides. Okay, so it's just a lot of repetition here. And like I said, if you can get a piece of basswood and practice. Now, there is the head on this side and the cheek done. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to get my pencil again and do a little more drawing. Here's what we have. We have the cheek coming around. We had this undercut and coming down here. I'm going to split the difference in here and follow this to mimic it. Okay, so I got another line coming down between here and here. It's thin up top and thicker down here. I'm going to do the same thing on this side. Going to take the middle, come down and flare around. Now, I'm leaving this side up to you. I'm going to do this side. And here's the center of the throat area here. All this should have been sanded now ahead of time, or it's self-defeating, okay? Now, I gave you a measurement of 3/4 of an inch from the end of the beak here down to here, and I put that light line in. So I'm going to start making just C's in here, not elongated ones, just regular C's. I'm coming between these lines and I'm piggybacking those off, okay, like so. They're not real big, but you can get a little bit bigger as you come down. Okay, and I usually come off like in between the tops, meaning I'm coming off the top of one seed to the other. And I get down to that line I put in. You don't have to stay on it. If you go over it a little bit, that's fine too. Now, there's the throat area with all those C's. The C's are probably no more than about 1/8 of an inch long, if that, okay? Now, I'm gonna come in here with elongated C's again, like I did in the head, like so. And then I'm gonna put another one in here. They get tight, because it's a tight area. And they get bigger as I come out. And I'll do the same thing on the other side. So I'm only gonna do half of this, just to get you rolling on this now. Now, I'm gonna come back with my burner. I'm using the upside down. If you have, like I said, a spear shape, that would be great. Anything real pointy to get you in there. So I burn right up to the beak without touching the beak. Then I do the next feather back. I'm doing the leading edge each time, flaring to the left and flaring to the right. Most of the time, because they're so small, doesn't take much to get there. Okay. Biggest thing is to be steady and consistent. Okay, there's one. Now coming up to the beak again, flare out to the left and the right. Doesn't take much to get most of them in because they're so small, you know. Most of it is having the patience to get in there and staying in control. Because when we do bigger ones down here, life's a lot easier. Now, in the throat area, here we go. I'm going to come up to the top where the beak starts, and that's my leading edge. And I flare out to the left and flare out to the right. And I'll do the next one. I flare out to the left. And I flare out to the right. Do another one. Here's another one. I don't know what part of the country you're in, but where I'm at, we've been getting so much rain and the dampness is just penetrating the house that I don't know if you hear that heater of mine running. It's we had to turn the heater on because it just got cool out here. I'm surprised. You're figuring for May we'd be warming up, but it's not happening. Okay, here we go. Get this one. I'm gonna try to finish the throat so you can see how that would look. Now I'll come back up to the beak again. Like I said, you strike through the middle of the C and then flare to the left and flare to the right. I sort of flick it out because it is texturing even in those light areas that you don't see any burn. It is actually marking that out if you do it right. And if you don't, you can come back in and do a fast swipe through there without lingering and getting any deep burns, and you can texture it real fast. because the heat will sear the wood slightly, even though it doesn't look like it's burning hard if you move fast enough. And the other thing I noticed too with burning sometime, at least in my system here, when the heater's on, my burn isn't as deep. And when the heat goes off, it intensifies a little more. So I don't know what that's all about, but that happens sometime. So we're almost done the throat here. So you'll get at least half the bird done in front of you that I'm trying to achieve. So here's the throat. Here's this side here. Here's the top. And the only thing we didn't do is this here. And I'm going to let you do that. It's the same thing with the scallop feathers coming back, and they get larger as they come back. And if you can accomplish this on this video, I think you'll be doing good. And then we'll start in on putting feathers in the wing after that, okay? So we've marked it out, and then we burned the head, and we did the throat area as well too. So hope you got something out of this one. Again, don't forget, use the practice board if you can, you know, just a piece of basswood, and scallop in either large circles so you can get used to that. Then do some small ones. You can see I've done a little bit here, and get even tinier, you know, you can practice that on that. I hope you got something out of this one. If you did and you're enjoying the videos, I'd ask you to give me a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel. And if you ever need anything, definitely contact me. In the body of my video is my email address. I will send catalogs out to you if you'd like to try this bird. I can send out a kit to you, or whatever you like, because I do all different ones. I've done wrens, I've done cardinals, house finches, otters, a variety of stuff. So contact me, and I'll see if I can't take care of you. So hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you in the next video.